Hi there, welcome to podcast episode number 23. I have done a lot of knitting over the last few weeks and I have a very exciting finished object to share that wasn't even on my needles last time we spoke. I'm not wearing it because it is a sweater and I am really warm, and while this is technically a summer project, at least I'm classifying it as one, it is more of a summer evening pullover than it is something I want to wear right now in the middle of the day when it is 35 degrees outside. So we're just going to chat about it. I'm not going to wear it for this video. I'm going to show you photos. I hope that's okay. I didn't want to risk my health and safety. I have a few updates on the whips I was working on. I'm making kind of good progress on some of them, and we'll see about the others. But I'm hoping I can get all of my, at least like plain summer knitting done during the summer. I think I should. So let's look at what I've been working on. This was my main project over the last 3 weeks. This is my meadow sweater. This is my own design and I'm writing a pattern for it, or I have written a pattern for it. That is currently in its last stages of being edited and is pretty much ready for testing. So a testnet call will be out very shortly. And the story of this sweater begins a few weeks earlier this summer even, when I noticed I have a lot of cotton scrap yarns that I don't know what to do with. So I ended up self-drafting this sweater over here, which is a worse and more colorful version of my meadow sweater, I would say. This is what it ended up looking like, and I really loved the design choices that I made here. I really liked the saddle shoulder that I have over here. I really like the raglan shaping, and I just thought it would be fun to make a pattern out of this. And BC Garn was nice enough to send me their Big BO balance so I can make this proper sample. I made a few small changes to the design to perfect the sweater, and I am very happy with the way it came out. So the Big BO balance is a yarn that is 55% organic wool and 45% cotton, which I feel like makes it perfect for a sweater project for me that I can wear maybe in the summer evenings or in fall or in spring, just like a 3-season yarn, because a lot of the sweaters I knit end up being a bit too warm for me. And it's kind of perfect for this construction because it is a bit heavier than just a wool, obviously, because it has cotton in it, but these like clean lines that are created by the saddle shoulder and the raglan shaping just work perfectly with a yarn like that. And I really enjoyed knitting this up, and I'm very excited to wear it over the next few weeks and months even. I think even in winter I could probably wear a sweater like this here on the warmer days. So I think I will be getting a lot of use out of this, and I am very happy I got to try the Big BO balance. It will definitely be on my list of staple warmer weather yarns, and I ended up using 3 colors for my sample. So this white is called Nature, and this pink color here is called Fuchsia, and this green is called Lime, I believe. And they look really cute together. It's been reminding me of watermelon a little bit, but that's just my sample. They obviously have a bunch of other really fun colors. So for the construction of this, I knitted all of this on 3.5mm needles, all the details, all the finishings, just one needle size, which is pretty fun to do. And you knit most of this top down and in the round, or all of it top down and most of it in the round. The only part that you have to do flat is the very first part, that is the back shaping, where you cast on over here under the collar, and you knit a few stripes in this moon-shaped flat panel. You're working increases into the saddle, next to the saddle over here, and also some increases in the front. So you get this little slope here where you can later connect in the round. And that is, I would say, probably the most complicated part of this pattern, because you do have to do increases on the wrong side of your work, but it doesn't get more complicated than that. And I think this is overall a very enjoyable project to work, just because you can try it on as you go. You have everything on one needle. You don't have to switch needle sizes. You're working it all in one piece, and you really only have to pick up stitches once for the collar. So I think from a knitting experience standpoint, this is pretty fun. I think I did a good job. And after the back shaping, you, connect in the round over here, and then you finish the saddle increases. So this is what the saddle ends up looking like, and it ends, where your shoulder ends, as a saddle does. And then after that, I've included some raglan shaping as well, so you get like a nice comfortable yoke, and that is what shapes this sleeve cap here. So you'll be placing your raglan seams here at the edge of the saddles, and then you can work increases into the sleeves, and later as you move along in the yoke there'll be increases into both the sleeves and the body. And later there's a small section where you only increase into the body to connect at the underarm, and that's the entire yoke. It's pretty simple to do. There's a bunch of different sections, so you have like goals in between that you can work towards. And I also think with the stripes, it's just generally very fun to do, because you're always thinking, oh, I'll just do one more stripe, one more color, and it keeps you knitting very, very long. After you're done with the yoke, you put the sleeve stitches on hold. So You can work the body in the round, and well, this is what it looks like. It's a very basic body. You just knit it straight down essentially. And then the hem is done with these rolled edges and a little bit of 2x2 ribbing just to hold the edge in place so that it doesn't curl up too far. And then we'll be picking up the sleeve stitches again. There's some stitches cast on at the underarm, obviously, as always, and the sleeves have some decreases, not too crazy. It's still like a relatively wide sleeve, just a comfortable fit, and it features the same cuff as the hem. And then you're picking up stitches for the collar over here. The collar is also worked the same as all of the other finishings, so there's a little bit of ribbing and then a rolled edge, and it has a tiny bit of a V shape over here, but it's really very tiny. So if you're at all concerned about your shirt poking out underneath this, I don't think that will really happen. It comes up pretty high. For all of this sweater, I've included a little detail in the seams here because if you're working stripes in the round, you will always kind of see where you changed colors at the beginning of round and it doesn't look very nice. And what you can do to fix that is a technique called joggler stripes. There's a few different ways of doing them, but the most common one is a technique where on the second row of your stripe, you get to the beginning of round and then you lift up the right leg from the stitch underneath the first stitch of your round and you knit it together with the stitch that is on your needle. And that creates a line where the stitches are pulled upwards a little bit, so they will sit more in line with the color stripe that they're supposed to be in line with. But you can still kind of see that, I would say. It's not invisible, it just looks a bit nicer. And that's why I've decided to do this lifted stitch for pretty much all of the seams on this sweater. So you can't tell at all where the beginning of round was. So you might be able to see when I show the seams over here that they all have this lifted stitch detail. And I just think it looks very nice also because this sweater has these like clean, distinctive lines. I feel like it works very well with this type of construction. And I've been doing that for this side and this side and also this side and also at the underarm for the body and on the underside of the sleeve as well. And I just think it's a nice little detail. I think it looks very cool and it means that you can't tell at all where you've changed colors on the sweater. So I'm really proud of this construction. I think this was a fun knit. It looks really cool. It's very versatile. You can obviously use whatever yarn you'd like for this. You can also make a warmer version with a full wool yarn or whatever else you come up with. You can use all the colors, all the stripes, and I'm very excited to see your versions of this once the test kit is out and once the pattern is out. And I would be very happy if you're interested in participating in that at all. I will be sharing the tested call on my Instagram, definitely, so if you are not doing that already and you would like to participate, you can go follow me there. I'll also be mentioning it here again as soon as I have more info about that. So that was all about my main project of the last 3 weeks. That was a lot of work, and I'm very glad that it is done now and that it all worked out, also with the changes that I've made in comparison to my fast sample, which were mainly to the neckline over here. I didn't really like the way it looked on my fast sample. I just did the slope over here a bit differently and it created this kind of cool but also kind of weird shape that I wasn't sure if I liked, and I think it looks a lot nicer now. I've made some changes to the shaping as well, like where which increases are placed and all that, and I think I came up with a really cool pattern. So I hope you like it too, and let's chat about all of my whips, which is only 2 at the moment, I think. But now that I got the sweater project off my needles, I'm pretty sure I'll be casting on another one pretty soon. Which one should we talk about first? Should we stay with stripes? I seem to have a problem with stripes this summer because this is my 3rd striped project of the season. It has a very long needle in it that is not very practical. This is me using up the leftovers from my leftovers, and this is going to be a self-drafted striped top. I've just showed my fast sample of my meadow sweater, this one, and I've mentioned that I've done this with all of the cotton scraps I had laying around at home. And well, as it turns out, this sweater didn't use up all of my cotton scraps, and I was left with, I don't really remember how much yarn, like 350 meters, something like that. Like a relatively small amount of yarn that was like cutting it very close for being enough to make a summer top for me. And I rummaged through all of the yarns that I have and I found a few more options. So these are merino yarns that I've added to the mix. And I also had a little bit of purple that I didn't use in the sweater at all. So now this is all of the colors I'm using for my top. There's more, wait. I'm kind of overdoing scrappy stripes at this point, I have to say, but this is all of the yarns I'm using. They're just mostly cotton, mostly random scraps. Like, I'm not going to go into detail about what all of them are. So this is the top that I've decided to make. I started into this project with very little of a plan, which is not the most usual for me. I normally like to know where I'm going and what I'm doing. I just had a vision in my head and I felt confident enough that I could somehow execute it while I was working on it. I'm working this top down, as you might be able to tell, and I started up here using kind of the ivy top pattern by Petite Knit as inspiration for my neckline, or basically the first few rows of this are from the ivy top pattern, and then once I was done with the saddle I kind of left the pattern. I also don't remember which size I did anymore because I wanted some positive ease on this, so I think I went for a size that is not really the size I'm supposed to be using. Anyways, it's essentially just a few rows of stockinette stitch for this little bit of collar section here, and then you do some short rows which you can kind of see over here where they end. And then it's just some more increases for the saddle, and then you bind off the saddle stitches and work the front panel and the back panel just flat back and forth. And from there on out, I've kind of been making up my own thing. It wasn't overly complicated. I just worked straight down in stockinette stitch for a little bit in the front until I felt like I should now start doing some increases, which I actually forgot about first. I worked the panel just straight down, and then I was wondering why it looked so weird when I kept trying it on, and then somehow I remembered that that is a spot in the top where people would usually do increases, so I had to rip back, and I now have even more ends on this somehow than I did before. So that wasn't very fun, but I then went back and did my increases, so now I have like a proper armhole shape over here. And for the back, this is what it looks like. I'm doing my little lifted stitch trick again. So when I was working the start of this in the round, I obviously had to do something to my beginning of round, and I just did the joggler stripe thing again, and then I just kept doing this lifted stitch all across the back panel while I was working flat as well, even though it wasn't really necessary there, of course, but I just thought it looks kind of nice. Gives it a cool little detail, and the back and the front panel are pretty much the same, other than the back panel has the back shaping, obviously. And then I connected in the round, and I just worked like, I think 4 stripes, something, just like a little bit of knitting in the round to give it a bit of stability. And now is where my genius planning comes in, or my vision that I had at the beginning of this. I have on my last row here bound off most of the stitches. So all of the back I bound off in I-cord bind off, and then some of the front here as well, because my plan now is I want to continue for the bust section of this. So I have these 2 sections here, one that is on my needles, this one, and then I have this that is on scrap yarn, 2 separate sections that will kind of cover my bust, I hope. So I want to knit like a half circle shape, I guess. I'll be doing some decreasing. As I said, I don't really have a plan for this. I measured on my body that I should continue for like about 6 centimeters to like cover the shape of my bust, I guess. And that is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna work some like decreases on the sides of these little panels over here. And then I'm gonna bind them off an I-cord bind off as well. And then hopefully that looks kind of cool. I've also been doing I-cord at the edges of my armhole over here. I don't know how well you can see that. It still kind of rolls inwards, which is fine. I just wanted the edge to look a little bit more finished. So this is what that looks like. And I'll also be continuing the I-cord for these little panels over here that I'm adding. And then hopefully that will look somewhat cool. And I'll have all of my stitches bound off and have like the upper half of my upper body covered. And then with the yarn I have left over, I'm hoping to add a body section to this that is striped in the other direction. So I ideally want to cast on just a flat panel and do like a long panel of just striped stockinette knitting. And then I want to attach it to this panel that I already have, and the stripes will be going this way. Obviously, I need to do some kind of shaping to it, because well, this isn't a flat piece of knitting, like the back is flat, okay, but the front will have these half circle shapes on it. So I'm not quite sure what I'll do about that yet. I think I'll just finish this panel and then measure on it and then figure out what to do about the rest of it. But that is kind of my vision. I am also just hoping I'll have enough yarn. I did weigh what I have left over at this point. It is about half, which seems correct. So I'm hoping that will all work out, but because I'll be working the next panel that I'm adding the other way, so I'm not working it down from my body, but I essentially have to pick the length as I start. I'm just hoping I can somehow figure out how to do that without running out of yarn along the way. So there's a lot of question marks still with this project, but I'm not overly worried about them. It all seems like things I can figure out some kind of solution for when I get to the problem. Also, if I do run out of yarn, I will just come up with something really, maybe a part of this just won't be striped, or I'll find more colors to add to it, because at this point it's colorful enough that I don't think adding any more color to it would really, you know, mess up the pattern in any way. I need to put these on a shorter needle. This is already annoying me, but I just did the bind off on it last night because I wanted to show you kind of what I was thinking with this one. I don't know if you at all understood my explanation there. I think I made a little drawing for what I was planning to do with this for my last podcast episode, so I'll go find that, and I hope that makes it sufficiently clear. I'm planning to finish this pretty soon. I think this is going to be my project for the rest of the week, and then I should be able to get that done. It's really not a lot of knitting, it's just a simple summer top, and I've been knitting with this yarn in these stripes for so long now. I feel like it's just second nature at this point. I have one more whip, which is a crochet whip. I know I mostly talk about knitting on here, and I'm calling this a knitting podcast, but you're gonna have to listen to me talk about crochet for a second, because I used to crochet before I started knitting, and now I barely do it anymore. But last summer I made a filet crochet project and I really enjoyed it, and then this summer, I don't know, I was kind of struggling at the start of the summer to decide what I want my summer knitting projects to be. I was on Ravelry a lot. I also made a video about summer knits because I was a bit overwhelmed, I would say, with all of the patterns out there and what I liked about them and what I didn't. So I just needed some time to decide on a few knitting projects, and I somehow remembered I could do filet crochet and that's like maybe a fun thing to do. So I decided to make a filet crochet top, and I have once attempted to make a crochet garment, which was a sweater that I used a very horrific acrylic bright green yarn for, and like no instructions whatsoever, so I was just guessing what a sweater looks like. I have no idea what I was doing, and that sweater does not exist anymore, as you might imagine. So this might at some point be my first ever crochet wearable item. We'll see about it, because for now I only have a front panel. I am happy with my front panel, which is good, but I haven't started on a back panel yet, and I have to say that this is not the most enjoyable project I've ever worked on, because I'm not that great at crocheting, so it just all takes me a while. But I still haven't shown my front panel. This is what it looks like. For this, I also don't have any instructions really. Again, I don't know what I'm doing this summer. I'm just doing like random things, but it seems to work out from time to time. I have like a sweater pattern coming up, so that's good. For this top, I took this chart from a magazine that I have, that my grandma gave to me at some point. I think the magazine is from the year like 2000 or something, so it's an old magazine, and it has a bunch of filet crochet doilies and decorations in it, and I did like this chart, so I just took the chart. It is supposed to be on a doily, so obviously none of the other parts of this project are from the magazine. For the shape of this top, I just did like 10 minutes of planning. I like measured the top that I had, and I did this big of a gauge swatch, and then I just hoped that that would all work out, but it seems to be working fine so far. For filet crochet, if I haven't mentioned it yet, you essentially create a little pattern out of filled boxes and empty boxes, and you're doing these boxes with double crochets and chains, or just double crochets if you want them to be full, and then you get cool designs like this, which is really fun. And for this particular top, I cast on at the bottom here. I don't usually like working things bottom up, but I didn't know how else to go about it, so that's what it is. I just did one row of only filled boxes, and then I started my pattern over here. I did make changes to the chart. I don't think I've mentioned that. I made it like slimmer, I guess, because I wanted to put two of them next to each other, and with the width of what I wanted my panel to be, that didn't quite work. So I made some of these elements, like these like hazelnuts, I guess, is what this is supposed to be. They're a little bit slimmer than they are in the pattern, so that everything fits onto one panel. And then it was a lot of just working rows back and forth and doing these little empty and filled boxes. I did enjoy that it was symmetrical. I didn't really have to do a lot of thinking. Also because not only is it symmetrical in the sense that this is the same chart twice, but also the chart itself is symmetrical. So it was just the same thing 4 times, and I have to flip it in my head once. And then that was it for the most part. I worked some decreases over here for where the armhole is supposed to go. And then I believe last time we chatted, I was about here. I had finished the charts already, and I worked the neckline on this after we spoke, and then I held it in front of me and I really didn't like the way it looked. It was like way too deep. It was somewhere over here and it wasn't quite lining up with the decreases I had done for the armhole. I'm not quite sure why that is. As I said, I didn't do a ton of planning, but I did take the measurements from a top that I have that fits me, so I'm not sure where the problem came in, but well, it wasn't that big of an issue to fix. I just unraveled this like neckline row that I had done, and I think one of these straps, and I added a bunch more of these empty rows over here. So now it comes up a little bit higher and it sits a bit nicer and more like what I was imagining. So this is, I guess, what it's gonna look like later on. I think it looks pretty cool. It is obviously missing a back panel because I can't wear it like that. And for the back panel, I'm not really sure what to do anymore. My first plan, or what I was planning to do until about a week ago, was to just crochet a panel that is very similar to the front panel in shape, just that the back of the neck would come up a bit higher here. And then for a design on it, I have an option in my chart where I'm essentially reusing this top part of the flower over here and putting that at the very bottom of the panel. So like here, there would be the big flower and the rest of the panel would just be empty boxes. And I still think that would look somewhat cool, but then I started thinking about it again and I was considering if I should just knit the same design onto the back panel, if that would look cool, just have the top be the same front and back. I think that would look kind of nice, but it would also be a lot more work. And knowing how long it took me to get through this and how not motivated to do that I'm not sure if that's a good option. I'm also not sure if I have enough of the crochet thread for that. I'm just using a random crochet thread in an off-white color. This is what it looks like. It's probably as old as the magazine I took the chart from. I had 3 balls of it and this is my second one, and when I weigh this, it seems like I might have enough of it, but it could be cutting it very close. So I'm not sure if it's a good option to do the exact same thing. I've also been thinking maybe I just want to do a very basic back panel with just empty boxes. That would also be a lot faster, and somehow I can't make up my mind for what to do. I think I should probably just cast it on and at least have like this section down here done where you do all of the filled boxes. So when I do decide on what I want to do, I at least can start on it immediately. And I think it would just be good for the workflow on this project to get something on my needles again, because now that everything is bound off here, I am a bit afraid that I might just forget about this project a little bit. I did enjoy crocheting again for the first few rows of it, but honestly, after a while, I got so tired of it taking me so long. Like if I'm knitting a top like this, just a simple summer top, I am so much quicker in comparison to how long it takes me to do something like this, just because I don't really crochet that much. So it's been a bit annoying, but I do think I can get it done this summer. And I have one more summer top planned that is a knitted summer top and should also be fairly quick. So I'm hoping, unless I come up with a bunch more projects to do for this summer season, I can get this done somehow. I'm still determined to do so. It would be kind of sad if I give up on it. So I'm hoping I can get some kind of back panel done. For my plans, I have some drops cotton merino in a black that I want to use to make the Nui top by 𝗙𝗡𝗡𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 video that I shared a few weeks ago, and I thought it was a really cool design and it looked like simple enough for a project that I could cast on now, be done with relatively quickly, and still get to wear this season. So that is my most immediate plan that I have, and I think I will be casting that on within the next 3 weeks until my next podcast episode, definitely. I'm thinking I should probably finish this striped knitted top that I started working on, just because it's not that much work left and I just don't do that well if I have too many projects on my needles. So I think I should get this done within the next few days probably, and then I'll be able to cast on my next summer project. I'm pretty excited to start at the top. It has a very interesting neckline shape where you have a little slit over here, which is not something I've ever done before, so I'm excited to see how that is constructed. I actually haven't read through the pattern at all yet. I did get the pattern, I just haven't read through it, which I don't usually do. I normally, when I get a pattern, I'm pretty excited and I like read through it and mark all of the numbers for my size and all that, but I haven't gotten to it yet. I had to design a sweater. So that is my most immediate plan. After that, I am not quite sure. I have some leftover yarn from my meadow sweater, a bit more than 100 grams, I think, and I'm not quite sure what I want to do with that. It's not enough for a top, I think, and I have been wanting to kind of work like a little bandana or something for summer that I haven't really gotten to yet, but I don't know, I just think it would make sense to probably do something with that yarn just because I have it at home and it is a more summery yarn. I also still have some knitting for Olive Pure Silk laying around from my first Ivy top that I knitted, because I did unravel that actually. I had it laying around for like a year now and I was wearing it occasionally like in winter underneath other items, but I just wasn't very happy with the project. I think I've mentioned on here many times that that was kind of a fail, so I decided to just get rid of it and have the yarn for something else. I haven't really planned what yet, so I could still do a lot of summer projects actually, and summer still has a few weeks left, so we'll see what I come up with. You can let me know in the comments about your summer knitting, or if you have any suggestions, and also if you're interested in test knitting this wonderful sweater over here. As I said, the test knit call will be out very shortly on Instagram definitely, and I'll also be mentioning it on here again once I have more information. But well, I would be very happy and grateful if you would like to test this for me, or even knit it once it's out and a finished pattern. And I will see you next time.
Catching a breeze, love moving